Hey guys, Ted Bogert here. Welcome back to the TED Show. So excited to have this beautiful young lady on the show. It's Marjory Sheba. She's here to talk about making a legacy of your life. And she's an author. She is so many things, but I know her as a beautiful human being who does a lot in the community and gives back a ton. And I'm just excited to have you on the show, Marjory. Welcome. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Ted. I'm really thrilled to be on the show today. Love, love, love watching you having such great conversations with everyone else. So I'm doing fantastic.
I'm
Um,
glad.
Feeding off of the vibe that I'm receiving from you there for sure.
Good. Well, I want you to have a good, you always have a good vibe. Whenever I see you, whenever I've seen you, whenever I watch whatever you are on social media too, you just have that energy that people want to be around, and it's a light. So I'm excited for you to talk about your light and talk about your book and talk about all sorts of things. But before we get into the book, especially, let's learn a little bit about Marjory. Tell them a little origin story on you, kind of your point A to point B.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share that. Well, I am a business owner, a Medicare broker. So that is the start in my career, the last 15 years. And just before diving into that, I became a very young mother. I married very, very young. We're talking 20. And I had to be thrust. I was thrusted into this life of many responsibilities. I had my daughter very young as well, so newly married, newly a mother, and trying to finish school and also launching a business career. Did all that, and I was able to. This was all in Central Florida.
Right.
I had some great opportunities thrown my way, being a union organizer, then a political organizer, doing a little bit of lobbying work, even in DC, very young. And I had the opportunity to then move to South Florida, where I sought more aggressive opportunities doing community leadership, community organizational type work, which is my background. And
That's
with
where your
that,
advocacy spirit comes from.
that's where that comes in, Ted. And I think, much like you, when you are naturally sensitized, to the needs of others, and many of times it's because you've lived certain things, certain hardships, had certain challenges,
100%.
which I certainly have. Having, you know, I just like many of us, there are many things that will either change you and harden you, and make you completely cold to life and completely indifferent to, anything that might pose a risk, or you will be sensitized, where you will be
Yes.
made tender by the pain, by the hardship. And hopefully, what that means is you've learned from it. You can learn very quickly, and you will now allow yourself to extend a hand to others that you're seeing undergoing those same type of challenges. So that's the background. I divorced young, not too long after that, and moved down south with my daughter. And that's really where the person I am today was birthed, because I had to learn, Ted, to do a lot of things, just myself and her, no family over there, and limiting any time with her and a sitter, because again, it's just the two of us. And in that process, it's and I'll share a little bit later how this third book came about. But that's my background and that's my story. And I've had the opportunity since then, after launching my business career, having my brokerage office in South Florida, and now having one in Orlando. I was able to then start to share my story on many stages internationally, including Santo Domingo, Haiti, here, and many parts of the nation. And that's
Your journey is just your journey is inspiring, and you're absolutely right. I think that people who have had hardships or suffered in whatever that looks like in their lives, it usually goes one of two ways. They go down the path that it's very hard to come back from, or they become, as you said, sensitized, and they are empaths and empathic and very much about giving back. And that's the sense I always get from you when I see what I keep up with you. I see what you do. I see how you give back. I even see the business that you're in and the book that you have, this book that you have written. You are trying to impart some of that empathy and that love and that advocacy on other people. And that's a gift,
Absolutely.
right? That's, to me, that's a gift. I love to talk to people who love to give back. And you obviously, you have a, it's part of your soul, your spirit, your give. Talk a little bit about the process of the book, because first of all, I love making a legacy of your life. I love that because I think a lot of people think about that either on their deathbed or when they face some kind of crazy health crisis, or maybe at some loved one's funeral. And then a lot of times that's a fleeting thought, and there's nothing that people do about it. But you want people to make a legacy out of their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You do, because I feel that it's ultimately what gives meaning to our lives, right? And it doesn't matter whether we become parents or whether we're a guardian to someone else or as a best friend, we all mean something to someone in our life who look up to us, who seek advice from us, who depend on us. And so I feel when we are put in these types of positions, it should alert us even more to do the work that we should do, not just to fulfill our calling for ourselves, but for the betterment of others as well. And so when I think about the legacy, and we probably are familiar with this proverb that says, if we as parents have not prepared our children for our passing, then we have ultimately failed. And I remember when I first read those words, it really, really hit home to me. And then it resonated with me, Ted, because perhaps it's because of the career I've been in the last 17, 18 years, being in insurance. As a broker, I'm always facing the reality of life, being able to be taken away in an instant, that we may be here today and not tomorrow, not
Sure.
next week. It's not given, it's not guaranteed. So, what does that mean ultimately? I was able to apply a lot of that understanding when I interacted with my daughter. So she was just about 8 years old when we moved to South Florida, and I'm starting a whole new life with her. I would try my best to impart on her experiences that I've had, have conversations, get into her thought process, see how she sees life and concerns that she may have. And with that understanding, I would share with her, the things and situations that I may not be around to see, and ask her, how would you handle this situation? Everything, Ted, from rejection to self image issues to being let down by someone, being betrayed by a family member, a close friend, and how she would handle that. And then telling her my advice so that she would know and not feel, I wish my mother was around. I wish I knew how she would tell me to handle this, right?
Where
Uh,
did this come from on you? Where were you raised this way? Is it something you feel like you were born with? Because I think a lot of times empaths, people who are empathetic, it's not always their thing. It's their, tell us about it.
ah, that's a great question. I think it's probably more nature than nurture for me. It's more of the experiences that I've had. When you've been put in positions where you realize you are alone, or it seems you are alone, right? Alone, at least in the physical sense, right? It forces you to have to find the solutions, the answers you're seeking inwardly. Okay, or first, and for me, going inward is actually reaching, out to your creator, that higher spirit, that higher power. It forces you to have to do that because you realize that you are not safe depending on another human being who's probably dealing with their own issues, and that's what it was. Third in line among my parents' children, there was I probably did not. I certainly did not have my parents' undivided attention, and you add to that, that they were immigrants and they were adapting, and there were a lot of moving parts. And so that, along with other experiences that I had, I learned early on that I had to be there for me, and thankfully, not with any resentment, not with any pain that would put any outward hatred or anger towards anybody. And I'm very grateful for that, Ted. That I think is why it's probably more unique to us empaths, where you're not holding any grudge or anger because you understand that person. You're too much of an empath to even be angry for what
Correct.
you were not given because you're understanding where the person is and what pain they have. So you're not selfish about that. So that's kind of where that came. I would say it's a lot more nature than nurture.
Definitely. I understand that. And I think it comes, some people come on the show and when they talk about it, it's definitely they were raised in it, but a lot of us weren't.
Right.
So we're in spite of, or it's because it's nature and because it's whatever our gifts are. I believe all of us
Right.
have gifts. Talk about, though, turning this into a book,
Yes.
because you are an author. You have other books, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
right.
But this one, talk about the process of that, because I feel like people have ideas. They have something they want to share. They feel like they've got something on their heart, their soul, their spirit. Talk about the process of writing this particular book at this particular time.
Absolutely. So from having the time that I've spent with my daughter many, many, many years, I remember, and I talk about it in this third book. So it is my third book. The first one was a book I wrote on where I adapted the concept of Dr. Abraham Maslow around self-actualization, and we went into self-transcendence. So that is a journey to self-actualization. The second book is Ideals of a Realist. So always going inwards, always seeking the spiritual aspect of us, always around personal growth. And this third book, which is Advice to My Daughter, 99 Lessons on Love, Life, Success, and Society. It's exactly that. This book, she was 13, as I mentioned in the book, when we were having yet another deep conversation about things to be and how she would handle it. Sometimes it was reviews, sometimes there were new topics. And that particular day when we were done, I think it was the longest conversation we had. She said to me to date, and she said, "Mom, I wish you would put this in a book for me because I don't know that I'll remember that I'll remember everything." And I remember really like being struck by that. I was already an author by then. My first book had already come out, and it stayed with me. And it would take another 3 years for me to dedicate the time and start putting, thought to paper and writing it. Then this book, from start to finish, I worked on it for the last 4 years. I have
Wow.
a lot more than 99 lessons to share.
I bet you do.
Yeah, and I had to condense it, see to it that there were not much repetition, things I felt were core to share with a daughter, a little sister. And there are lessons in here, Ted, about everything, from self image, understanding also that you are not what happens to you, that what we ultimately are is our identity is actually always shaped by the concepts we decide to accept and cultivate within ourselves.
Amen.
Never what the exterior wants to label on us, never what someone has done to us, and learning how to separate the two. Also, lessons about when it comes to family, that family is our first taste of society, right? Some will support you, some won't, right? Some will like you, some don't, right? But that's okay because it's not about who showed up for you. It's not about who did what. The toll is always on you to make it anyway, because we do have a direct calling, and the families we're born into. In part, they're there to support us, but sometimes the support comes from a family that's not necessarily flesh and bones. It's not blood related. It'll be organic in some other sense. We call that a tribe now, right?
Yes,
And
we do.
our tribe could be very much our family, if not more so. And it's okay. And when you're given the opportunity of friendship and support outside of your family line, be thankful for it, embrace it. Don't still look back and say, but I'm not getting that there. Because what you're doing is you're reducing on what nature is making up for. It knows you were supposed to be born from that group, but not necessarily have the help come from that area. So you focus on where the help, where the support, where the love is, and you thrive. So I do touch a lot on that. And like I said, it's not only for a child, it's for any individual at a crossroad, starting a new career, moving to a new place. It goes into some really, really deep lessons there.
Well, I want to ask you about those as we wrap up. I want to ask you about one of those, because of the 99, was there one that stands out that was the most raw for you, the
Whew.
either the hardest to write about, or the hardest to share and impart whatever wisdom you had learned for other people?
Yeah. Well, there were several of those. Definitely the family and society one that came to me, and every one of the lessons, the terms used and the titles are uniquely mine. I ponder a great deal on the title of the lessons because I wanted it to be catchy and memorable. And so a lot of that aspect come across. The other lesson that is like a life mantra for me, and I've expressed this on many stages, it's always stop doubting and start doing. This life you have is a blessing. No one can live it for you except you for yourself. And so casting away the doubt, casting away the things that make us feel less than. We all naturally have that, but then you can certainly choose to put more hope in you than fear. And you feed that by reading positive words, by nurturing your body, your soul, your mind, by watching those negative self-talks that we do a lot. And then, you practice it like any muscle, right? In a couple of months, you will see that you're stronger. And when you're stronger, things that come at you, little tuck back, little catty pettiness that people will do, it just bounces right off of you because you understand how important it is that you arrive where you need to arrive at to accomplish what you've come to accomplish. It is so important because, again, it's not just about our success, but others whose successes are tied to ours.
Beautiful. You heard it there from Marjory Sheba. Marjory, tell them how they can find out more about you, how they can buy a copy of your book, download it, whatever they come in these days. It's a beautiful cover and a beautiful book. But really how they can just get in touch with you and learn more about it.
Absolutely. Happy to. The book is out on my website, and that is marjorysheballive.com. Marjory, Marjory, Sheba, Sheba, live.com, as you see on your screen there. And you can click on the books tab, and it will take you right where you can order the book. It is also available on all other platforms that books are sold. That includes Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Books and Books, etc. So you're able to order it there. When you order it through my website, you do get it already autographed, so it comes as a signed copy, and you get the collector's edition when it is to my site, and we have the standard edition on the other platforms. So that's the little special thing there, because we have a little addition in the book for those who get the collector's edition. And thank you, Ted.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing such great energy. I loved hearing your story. I think there's a lot of people out there that who could use what you are telling them, because we don't talk about it enough. And I am sure in the 99, there are so many lessons, life lessons, and we could all use it. We can all use it. We can all use that extra help and that extra insight. And I'm just thankful that you're one of those people who decided to share your heart and soul with everyone else. What a blessing. Come on anytime, y'all. I want you to buy Marjory's book, marjorysheballive.com. You get an autographed copy if you buy it there. I think it's amazing. Marjory, seriously, what a blessing you are. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Ted. It's been a thrill. Thank you.
Always a pleasure with you. Y'all, marjorysheballive.com. Go there. You don't want to miss out. All right, we'll see you guys.